In 2011, the site ranked the 100 most important moments in gay sports history. Do you remember what you ranked number one?
Absolutely.
What was it?
It was the coming out of Dave Kopay in 1975.
So why is that so important? What made you choose that as number one?
He's probably the father of the modern gay sports movement. He played 9 years in the NFL, mostly with the 49ers, and he came out in the Washington Star right after he retired. It became a big deal, and he wrote a book that became a New York Times bestseller, and he's sort of been the person everyone has looked up to. I can't tell you how many people I've met who are not into sports who said they were a lonely gay person and they read Dave's book. I mean, I met someone who was living here from Malaysia, of all places, and he lived in a small village in Malaysia, and he learned to read English, and he was at some side, walking down the street with someone selling a bunch of books or giving away a bunch of books. And one called the Dave Kopay story, and he said he knew that the person had no idea what the book was about. But it was in English, and this guy said he kept his book underneath his bed for like 3 or 4 years and read it every night just to say, there's somebody else like me. So his coming out was kind of the reason a lot of other people came out. I mean, there's another NFL player in this room who came out as openly gay. He played with the Minnesota Vikings, Atlanta Falcons, Green Bay Packers, Sarah Tuaolo. Sarah, why don't you stand up a second? And Sarah can talk a lot, talk about the influences Dave Kopay had on him. So I think that of all the things that have happened in the gay sports movement, Dave sort of coming out was the catalyst, and people owe him so much.
I agree. Let's watch a quick video about Mr. David Kopay.
To know is to understand is to have knowledge is to tolerate, and to tolerate is to have peace. At the University of Washington, I played running back and also safety and linebackers, and I became a really good college football player. When I got to go to the All-American game in Buffalo, New York, and saw all these high draft choices around me, I realized that I could play in the National Football League. I played for San Francisco, Detroit, Washington, New Orleans, Oakland, and Green Bay. I retired in 1973. I knew that I was gay. It was very tough. Women would come around, and the players kind of liked that in me, but they couldn't quite understand why that I was always kind of dishing them off. It was a different world then. I'm really lucky that I'm still on this planet. Gay people were talked about being put into mental hospitals, and it was a mental disease, and all the hate that existed then was pitiful. I spoke out on December 9th, 1975. That was significant because I was the first. Writing my book was a chance to give the general public an insight to what gay people go through, and also give me a sense of what I believed and how I could contribute to the world. There was just a huge response. The book was chosen by the American Library Association then as the top 10 selection for a suggested reading for all high school kids. Well, I did receive thousands of letters. Giving someone a sense of self-esteem and confidence is a
Cut off a little earlier, but please welcome to the stage Mr. David Kopay. Thank you so much for being here, sir, especially since you've been under the weather recently.
I'm managing it. It's okay. Hi, everybody.
Good day.
So you were an All-American running back at the University of Washington, which means that you played against USC. How did we fare against you and your Huskies?
Well, I thought I saw Pat Hayden out there running around the track before I came in. But in those days, let's face it, you grew up in Southern California, and that's basically what I did. You wanted to be chosen by USC to go to school, or UCLA, and UCLA was the second favorite at the time. I played, at Notre Dame High School. We had a real good conference, and to make all Catholics one thing, but you had to do a lot more than that to get a scholarship for USC. And obviously, over the years, your program has shown that. So I didn't get a scholarship. When I didn't get the scholarship, it kind of put me in a funk, and I decided, well, you know, maybe they don't think I'm good enough to play major college football. Maybe I'm not. And of course, I had a lot of self-doubts, because I had a lot of self-doubts about lots of other things too. So I went to Marquette University. They got football. The first year I was there, my freshman year, I hear once again from University of Washington, where my brother Tony accepted a scholarship, and he's now going to the Rose Bowl. I get a chance to see him play in the Rose Bowl, and I look at all these little guys, and compared to Marquette's team, which was all these big, strong, super, big guys. I thought, well, damn, Washington's kicking the hell out of Wisconsin, and I sure as hell can. I think I want to be part of them, part of that team, and I want to go there. So I decided I'd go to the University of Washington and study history and go on to law school. Well, that all changed once I got to the university.
So what happened when you played USC?
Pardon me?
What happened when you played against USC?
Well, my senior year, we were 6-4 that year, and we beat SC. I think it was 21 to 6 or something. No, 21 to 14 or something like that. Hell, I've been hit the head so many times I forget. But it doesn't much matter anyhow. But those years we played both ways, offense and defense. And I had been benched my whole junior year. I hardly played at all. I started off as a red hot sophomore, and I played pretty well as a sophomore until the last few games, and I still wasn't quite accomplishing what the coaches wanted. And I kind of got benched, and then they kind of let me know that the next year was going to be hell. Well, I never did get the chance to play very much my junior year, but I decided, once I was losing the affection of my fraternity brother and his attention, I decided, maybe I needed to get a little tougher. And I really wasn't the tough guy. I was a fairly good athlete, but I wasn't that natural tough guy. And I had a brother that was playing up there with the Rose Bowl teams, and now he was coaching, and he decided to try to kick me in the butt and make me the tough guy too. And I became that tough guy, and wound up being second team All-Coast, and getting a chance to. I got elected the co-captain of the team. We went to the Rose Bowl where we lost to Illinois in 1963. So it was 50 years ago. I can't believe it.
Jim talked about this a little bit. Billie Jean King has said how much your book helped her coming out process, and every time I speak with Sarah Tuaolo, he can't stop talking about how much you helped him. And last month on this campus, Jason Collins was here to speak, and I asked him about you, and he said that he had the opportunity to speak with you on the phone, and that you were, quote, a very cool dude. Indeed. So how do you like being kind of in this patriarch role of all of the athletes coming out?
Well, it just kind of came, It's been it's been a real struggle, let me tell you, and it's been lonely. I'll tell you that too. But you know what? When I get the opportunity to hear people like Sarah tell me how much my book meant to him and how important it was, and I went up to the Gay Pride in San Francisco 2 years ago and took part in the front runners different runs they had in Golden Gate Park. And people came over and did all different age groups and were just lining up trying to tell me the story about where they read my book standing in the counter in Des Moines, Iowa. They couldn't take the book home because someone would see them. And how good does that make you feel? To give people a chance to feel what they need to know about themselves and to feel love from others instead of being someone thinking that they're more than what they are, I guess. I don't know what that's quite say.
Terrific. Going back to your playing days a little bit, the world largely knew Alex Karras from his hit role on the show Webster. You knew him as teammate and friend.
And now the term is ally.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Alex Karras, as an actor, was a pretty decent actor. You know, he was with James Garner and Victor Victoria. He played his gay bodyguard. Alex was with me when I went back to Detroit. I was traded for two mid-round draft choices to the Lions in 1968. And that was also the year they were filming Paper Lions, and I got to be part of that group. And just being around Alex, I'd always had decent games against the Lions, and he knew that I could play and was a tough guy. It proved to be a really, really a difficult year. The question again was about Alex and.
Yeah, and just what do you want the world to know about him now that he's with
Well,
us?
he was a wonderful, wonderful man.
Were you out to him?
I definitely loved Alex in a brotherhood sort of way, not a sexual way. Alex was kind of a big square guy, and that wasn't my shot. But he was just a wonderful man. He had so much humanity. He owned the tavern downtown. I'm having Jimmy Gucci Karras' tavern, and I was there often. I was living downtown, and the Detroit Red Wings used to come in there, and the basketball team came in, and there was teams from all over the country who would come in there all the time. And of course, all the ladies thought, well, this is a good place to go meet an athlete. And so I was down there quite often, and the women were around me. I was a decent-looking kid in those days. And so he liked that, and he had enjoyed the fact that there was more women around. He was really, really a decent guy. Him and Paul Horning were suspended by the National Football League for betting on themselves, basically. They never bet on other teams. But, who doesn't bet on the National Football League? I mean, everybody does, right? And of course, there was no specific rule, I don't think, at the time about doing so. But Alex did, and I think after that happened, I think he had an empathy for others of being discriminated against for whatever reason. And Alex sensed right away that he thought I was gay. Because I really just didn't care about maybe all the affection that the women were giving me. And that kind of teed off a lot of other guys, and made a lot of other guys jealous too. And I could care less about them, But Alex and I did care about what he thought.
There was another ally in your life back then when you played for the professional football team in Washington, D.C. that shall remain nameless. You played for Vince Lombardi, a devout Catholic who studied to be a priest at one time, but also a coach who had a gay brother, a gay general manager, and a gay PR manager. What were your experiences playing for him? Do you think he would have been supportive?
I think, given the knowledge in today's world, Vince Lombardi would be a gay activist. I mean, he really was. I think Coach Lombardi maybe knew about Jerry at the time. He certainly knew about Ray McDonald, because Ray McDonald was the #1 draft choice out of Idaho, and he got caught in a couple of compromising situations that he shouldn't have been in, and the coach had to do something about him and let him go. But he didn't do it. He didn't let him go the first or second time. This was, 3 strikes and you're out. And so, so be it. I had no qualms about that. But Jerry, everybody really kind of.
Do you want to tell him who Jerry was?
Jerry Smith. He was finally, after all these years, I find out a few weeks ago that the National Football League is doing a documentary about him. Yet I find out from a friend, and it's like, well, wait a minute. How could they be doing a documentary to give it any kind of credibility if they didn't talk with me? I mean, it's just insane.
And why would they talk with you?
Well, when I was in Detroit, one game we had was against the 49ers in preseason. I mean, the Redskins in preseason, and the Redskins had a guy that was named Walter Rock, who I just saw up at the alumni reunion in San Francisco. And Walter Rock was a really good offensive tackle. And he brought up to the point, he brought it up to me. He says, Dave, you're going to like when you get to the Redskins. And he says, you got a player that he's really special, and you guys are like two peas in the pod. Well, he was telling me he knew that I was gay, but he didn't say those words, you know. But this whole knowledge that people didn't know players were gay in those days is a bunch of nonsense, because people knew, and people knew certainly. Jerry had been with the Redskins his whole career, and they always knew, quote, he was a little different, but we also had players like Roy Jefferson on the team who were totally wild and wonderfully outrageous, who wore those Mod Squad costumes with the ass cut out, you know, and he was a straight guy, you know. And a wonderful, great player. He was all pro before he joined the Redskins with the Baltimore Colts. But you remember, I don't know if you guys were all too young to remember, in those days, it was the days of the discos, and in discos you could kind of go and feel safe in a place where there was like lots of people mixing, and you weren't necessarily gay or straight. It was like Studio 54 in a way, you know, but not quite to that scale in Washington, D.C., down by the river, you know. It was really kind of a wonderful place to go, really, to come out. And that's what happened to me, really. Even when I went to Washington, I started coming out. I also was being mentored or adopted into a brotherhood by David Slattery, the assistant general manager, who was a decorated World War II veteran, and Joe Blair, who was the Washington Redskins PR man.
Both were also
both were also homosexual. Yeah. So people would say, well, didn't Lombardi know? Well, God knows. You think he knew about other people around him? I don't know. You know, I didn't say that in my book because I thought it was way too controversial to say. There was a lot of things that I couldn't quite say in my book then, because I don't know if you guys just remember, but it was only 1998 that Reggie White was out there blasting all kinds of, saying horrible things about the gay community and what we did or didn't do. And the National Football League shut up about it and was almost supporting him. So there's reasons sometimes you have to be quiet and go do, you know?
So you've been very open about your relationship with Jerry Smith. Recently, soccer great Abby Wambach married her teammate, Sarah Huffman. And earlier this year, NASCAR driver Danica Patrick started dating a competing driver, Ricky Stenhouse driver, or a junior. What do you think it will be like when we have an NFL couple who are open and together and on the same team or opposing teams?
I'd love to see it. I really would love to see it.
Will they
people say, well, gee, that's going to be so horrible. Well, why in the hell is it going to be so horrible? What? I don't get why it would be horrible at all. You know?
Well, if you're a running back and your husband is a defensive lineman, are you going to be able to take a hit?
Well, to begin with, I don't think that would ever happen because I like the lean and mean type fellas. Safety. I don't like the.
Wait, hold up now.
The bulk. Sarah here, I might have to go for a little lead, you know. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I mean, I think people should loosen up about this stuff, you know. My whole life is everybody when they ask questions like this, you're always supposed to be sour or down or. I'm done being down. I'm finished with all that. You know, I lived my life real simple, you know. I enjoy every moment I have. I'm above ground, you know. I really do. And I know, unlike, I was asked to be part of my Notre Dame High School Hall of Fame, the first class a couple of years ago, and they kept sending me what they wrote in my bio, and I kept changing it. And I said, I know I have made a difference, and they would write, Dave thinks he had made a difference. Well, there's a whole lot of difference between I know and I think, you know. I learned that from Coach Lombardi. He used to get up there and say, I know this play's going to work, you know. I mean, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to be, you know. And he wasn't kind of mealy, you know. You guys have been through a lot of, or not a lot of, coach recently that was a little bit, I think, too soft, you know.
You think Lane was too soft?
He just didn't seem to have a little passion, not the kind of passion that John Robinson had, or he just, to me, seemed a bit soft. Now, I think he must be a good coach, because he has to be. He comes from a great stock, you know, and he's always handled himself, I thought, fairly well. But he never really had, or the fun. He needed to have more fun, you know. And I think it's kind of great that the coach they have right now, the interim coach, is that kind of guy. You know, you don't have to be a GQ kind of guy to be a head football coach.
You've been through a lot, and you've seen this entire debate from start to now over many years. When you look at the NFL right now and look at the openly gay athletes in today's society, what has surprised you the most? What did you not think you would ever see in the NFL that has happened?
Well, to begin with, our player's contract, they have protected us. A veteran like myself to have a partner to get their pension if you passed away. I think that's a big, huge step. I mean, I never ever thought that something like that could happen, and that's happened just the last 2 years. You know, there's been times where I've gone in and spoke to him about, you know, jerks like Al Davis. Al Davis was pretty pitiful. He was like George Allen, you know, would say anything or do anything. I mean, anything to win. You know, I have some, you know, it's not right. You know, you got to play by the rules. You know, you don't be passing out bennies at halftime. You know, and George Allen was doing things like that, and I saw him, you know, his guys doing stuff like that. George Allen was, I think, a really low rent person. You know.
We have a couple of minutes for questions for either Mr. Kopay or Jim. Are there any questions?
I'm not going to attack anybody if you ask me a question. No? Okay. Well, I think your school is a wonderful place here. You guys are so lucky. I live right down the street from Occidental College, and I can't believe what a wonderful place that is. And believe me, you should be thanking the lucky stars you're in the place where you are, because this is a wonderful, wonderful campus and atmosphere here, and I'm proud to take part in your event. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we have a question from Sarah.
I mean, it's not a question, it's a statement. What I wanted to say is, your book saved my life, and you know this. If a friend of mine did not give me your book at the darkest hour of my life, I would probably be 6 feet under. So I appreciate you, and you.
Thank you, Miss Sarah. I love you for that. That's hadn't I done my book, I don't think I would be on this planet today. I'd like to go into a little scenario here that I rarely ever talked about, and it's probably could get me in some trouble. But you know what? So be it. I came out here to California. I couldn't get a job anywhere after I spoke out and after I did a book tour of about 2 years. I mean, I did sell cars in San Francisco for a while, but I really hated it. And I thought, well, maybe I could, you know, get into the steel business like a lot of other athletes, or you know, something like that. But nothing came my way. So my uncle says, Dave, you need a job, come to work for me. My uncle owned a store here in Hollywood called Linoleum City. And here I was going to work at Linoleum City, stacking boxes of tile and hauling out big heavy rolls of linoleum and loading the trucks for the studios. But I was in the store working all the time, and the production designers would come in and they'd look at me, and a couple of them recognized me from different shows, from David Susskind or whatever show that I had done, the Tom Snyder show or whatever. And then they befriended me and supported me. And I'm talking about gay guys and straight guys. It didn't matter. I mean, they were, because most production designers are in the arts and they have a sense of real humanity, I think. And they supported me. Then one day, about 2 years after I'm working at the store, a guy walks into the store and he says, I look at him and I went, oh my God, Dr. Ed Geis. And he said, yeah, Dave, I come to see you, and I'm now living with my partner in Pasadena. Well, this guy was the head of orthopedic surgery at Ford Hospital in Detroit when I was with the Lions, and had a year that was just really devastating for me. I played the entire football year. This goes to something, I'm speaking to something that Sarah just said about saving his life. So he comes into the store, and I says, Dr. Geis, good to see you, and I send out a crew to his place and give him an estimate on redoing his kitchen and service area. And he comes back in and he's very friendly, and then he says, Dave, I got to tell you this. He said, I knew you tore your ligaments and cartilage when you did it in training camp. And I went, what? How can you tell me that now? I knew you tore your ligaments and cartilage in your knee in training camp. And I went, I can't believe this. And I was really like in shock, because the year ended in Detroit in 1968 was the darkest year I ever spent, because it was a year of me facing up to my needs, coming out, and also a year where I was traded for 2 draft choices that I wanted to live up to the trade at least. After all, the 49ers had gotten me as a free agent, they didn't cost them anything, and they felt good about that. But so here I played the entire year in Detroit on one leg, where they tape your leg and then drain it on Friday and then drain it on Monday afterwards. And it was brutal. And of course, emotionally, I was going downhill and continued to go downhill and really became desperate. And I was also desperate because of my sexuality, if someone was going to find out. Luckily, Bill Munson, who was our quarterback, and Alex Karras, and myself, who they called the Three Amigos, they protected me. 2 straight guys protected me. They didn't know I was gay, but they knew I was gay, But for the doctor to not tell me an injury of that importance that's unethical, totally, for his practice and everything else. I don't know if he's still alive today or not.
So
but this is the story that he told me. Pardon me?
Why did he do it?
He said he don't know, he didn't quite tell me why he did it. I asked him, I says, well, someone specifically tell you? And he kind of, he never really got into the details of why he did it. And I was so shocked that I didn't push back. But it was like, how in the hell could anybody do that? And I might not be on this planet today, because it was that time for me. I was so desperate that hadn't I been able to limp out on the field, maybe in that lonely hotel room in Detroit when it gets cold and dark in the wintertime, you know how it is, I might have chosen to do something else. And believe me, and it was at that time too that I decided that I really needed more help emotionally, and went and got help, and did therapy for a number of years afterwards. But so I think you know, I don't feel like I'm any special person for doing what I did at the time, because I felt it was almost a football reaction, like just breaking a wedge of ignorance that I needed to do, because I wasn't getting any place at the time when I did speak out, you know. I was back in Washington, D.C. selling mirrors that was not really going to go through, and it was a really, really anxious and frustrating time. So anyway, so I never ever really have pictured myself as any kind of hero. I did what I needed to do, and I'm so glad the universe gave me the power to do it. You know? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.